Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising on this beautiful equinox. Today is the day when the light and dark forces around our beautiful planet are in an equilibrium, but it's also the case that the light, which has been growing for the last several months, is now bursting forth into spring. So in the spirit of the equinox, and more fundamentally in the spirit of light rising, I want to welcome you all to this session. It's a very special session for us because today we want to brief everyone on our plans developing over the past 18 months or so to transform Humanity Rising into Humanity Rising Network. And so I want to begin today with a deep thanks for each and every one of you since we started on the 22nd of May, 2020, in the depths of the pandemic, at a time when we were all in lockdown. We were all ordered to keep social distancing from one another. We were all wearing masks. And what we decided to do at Ubiquity University is to provide an opportunity for people all over the world to come together each day, to just commune together, to talk about what they were going through, to talk about the challenges that they were facing, and to talk about their aspirations for how we could use the crisis represented by the pandemic as an opportunity to fashion a better world. Before we knew it, we had hundreds of organizations that had joined us as co-sponsors. We had tens of thousands of people from over 130 countries that were watching and beaming in every day. And over the months and now several years, we've been growing, we've been expanding. We want to honor all our live broadcast partners that each and every day, including today, have been broadcasting through their Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube channels, the content that we have been designing day by day to inspire humanity in this extraordinarily fragile and yet potentiated time to rise together to create the kind of world that we all know is possible, and we all know we need to fashion so that our children under the 7th generation will look back at this time and remember our generation as a generation that in a moment of deepening crisis, when humanity literally teetered on the brink of self-destruction, we seized the moment. And we did what was necessary for all of us to be proud of the world that we're going to leave to our progeny. Before we jump into our program, I want to invite all of us to do what we always do on Humanity Rising, and that is to simply breathe as one. With all the tumult in our world, with all the chaos rising externally, the most important thing that we can do as a community is simply deepen our internal coherence. And one of the most effective ways to do that is to simply consciously, coherently breathe together. So in a moment, you'll hear the sound of a bell. When you hear the bell, just breathe in very slowly and gently for about 5.5 seconds. You'll hear another bell, and just breathe out 5.5 seconds. We're going to take 10 breaths together, and I guarantee you, you'll feel better about yourself, and you'll feel more harmonized with our global community. So thank you, everyone. Happy equinox. Let us breathe together. Thank you, everyone. It is so good to breathe as one, especially knowing what Plotinus several thousand years ago observed, that the whole universe breathes as one. It was in the fall of 2021, after we'd been going for about a year and a half, that a very good friend of mine, George Cappannelli, called me up one day and he said, "Jim, I've been watching Humanity Rising, and you have gold in your hands. I think that if we took Humanity Rising from where it is now and we developed it, we could develop a People CNN," he said, "a Humanity Rising network where we could build multiple channels together and allow people from all over the world to deliver their content." And that vision of a Humanity Rising network that George Cappannelli channeled to me that day has been incubating and flourishing and taking many turns and vicissitudes of fate till we today feel that we are at a threshold, we're at a critical mass to make Humanity Rising a reality. And so I want to invite George, who's the founder of Age Nation and has been in media and marketing and politics for many, many years with a passion for democracy and human rights, but more fundamentally, how communication available in the world today can be used to enable humanity to rise. So George, I want to thank you in the spirit of our deep friendship and in the spirit of real acknowledgement of your insights and mastery to talk about the vision that has ignited our pathway to Humanity Rising Network.
Well, thank you, Jim. Thanks for both your kind words and your inspiring introduction. At this time, as you say, when the light is rising, it's incredible to think about what's possible. And clearly, when we talked a few years ago, neither of us, I think, at that initial conversation in reconnecting after a time when we hadn't been talking that much, realized that we were taking a next step on the road to quite an extraordinary enterprise. And what was also clear to me was that you and a very dedicated band of Ubiquity University team members were doing, you had created a minor miracle to be able to produce with a very small team 7 programs. You were doing 7 at the time, I think, a week, every week. It was a miracle. And I think that the only reason perhaps that you and the team hadn't thought about what I was thinking about was that you had that on your plate. It was a full-time focus. But we've grown since then, of course. And I think it's now apparent to all of us that we have a possibility, a very real possibility, of bringing to the world something that is not presently here. And that is a unique kind of communications media that not only can be free of the influence of advertisers and corporate representatives and governments to decide what is viewed and how and what level of depth we go to, but to produce a network that is free of that kind of influence, that is a people's network, that depends on a lot of the terrific organizations that have been supporting HR and a whole slew more that are going to come in, that will present dialogues, real searches for truth and greater understanding, with experts and individuals who are deeply immersed in the conversations that they're having. And not only that, but we'll focus more on solutions than on repetitive hour after hour analysis of the same problems. So I know that's what we're here to talk about. I'm really delighted that we have the core team that's assembled that will help share that information with people all over the world. We want you to know, those of you who are viewing, that we really expect you to play a vital and important part in this process. And some of our core members of the team are going to speak to that today. Most important, I think that what Humanity Rising gives us the opportunity to do is to really take full advantage of Bucky Fuller's great advice. And that is that together, we can all become architects of the future and not its victims. And our world is desperate for that kind of architecture, that kind of spirit, that kind of hope and potential. So let's move along to the rest of the story that we have to tell you today. Tom, can you pick up from here, please?
Yeah, thank you, George. Thank you, Jim. It's been great collaborating with the two of you over the last several years and being on this journey of arriving at this significant milestone today, with many more milestones to get to. I think certainly the two of you and many of the people on the screen know I've been focusing the last 15 years on what I believe is helping, without knowing the words humanity rising, but working on helping humanity rise from our adolescent stage of development to our adult stage of development. And with the code red issues that have been the focus of many of the Humanity Rising programs over the last several years, it's been in an attempt to educate and inform and move the audience from this adolescent stage of development where we currently are as a species to the adult stage. And unfortunately, with the code red issues that we've focused on, we've recognized that incremental change is not sufficient. We genuinely need a paradigm shift. And I've been doing a lot of work over the last year around helping to inform and create that paradigm shift, both in my programming here at Humanity Rising and the work that I've been doing outside of Humanity Rising. I've got a good friend and colleague who he and I have been in conversations over the last year, looking at the UN Interdevelopment Goals, for example, which are in support of helping us reach or achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And while they're important and necessary, they in and of themselves don't create the paradigm shift that we genuinely need. And so the programming of HRN has been around helping to enable that paradigm shift. So over the last 6 months, George and Jim and Lynne and Janice and others who are with us today have been focused on creating a strategic plan. How do we bring the programming of HRN together with education from Ubiquity University and other platforms and action to help us move things forward, and then creating an operating plan and organization structure that's necessary. So we're going to get into all of that today. Just delighted to be here on this exciting announcement and this milestone event for us. So I'd like to bring Lynne Franks in to talk about her background and experience and where the media world is, followed by Janice Hall, who's going to talk about how do we activate people, and then the ground game, which will be covered by Heidi Gruber. Lynne?
Thank you, Tom. So 25 years ago, I wrote a book called Absolutely Now, A Futurist Journey to Her Inner Self. And amongst other things, I wrote my thoughts on the change needed in communication and broadcasting. I've been running the UK's top PR agency for many years. I was involved in global human rights and environmental campaigns, as well as commercial projects, and could see the close-up for the need for drastic change from an outdated media based on lies and manipulation, as I saw it. I wrote, I thought of all the different ways that we receive information and how crucial communication is to our everyday life. If we can create an honest and clear exchange, whether using digital technology, broadcasting, printed media, or even in our one-to-one dialogues, we can cooperate and coexist in a productive, fulfilled way. We need to filter out misinformation and negative imagery by using our internal Zap machine and be open to the messages that can bring a positive consciousness into society. I wrote then that the new digital technology means that we could soon have literally hundreds of channels to choose from, both in the States, Europe, and globally, using virtual reality and computer graphics to offer a more experiential experience, which could be enormously important, especially in education. The downside to this, of course, is that we could also be fed endless misinformation on poor quality internet channels. About this time, I met Jim Garrison, then responsible for the groundbreaking State of the World conferences, which at that time brought people from so many backgrounds together, many for the first time, to listen to each other's stories and start to envisage a new kind of world that was fair and safe for all. In fact, I met Jim then through a mutual friend, the late Tom Rautenberg, who was already working with both of us and others on a new kind of cable TV channel that could bring positive and true information out to all. But times were changing and TV was no longer the main influence for many people. We became aware that so many of the channels, particularly in the US, were controlled by very few companies who were also the businesses behind the energy and weapons industries. And alas, the resources needed to start a cable TV channel, never mind a series of channels under one network, were enormous. And cable was about to be taken over by the passively entertaining streaming channels without the interaction and information sharing I'd envisaged. I also predicted then that the information overload society, where our TVs, mobile phones, newspapers, radios, and emails would be bombarding us daily. What I didn't see was the explosion of social media, fake news, conspiracy theories, and of course the pandemic, which would close down the whole world in 2 weeks, so that we became even more reliant on sitting on screens to find out what was supposedly happening in the world. Like many others, I turned to Zoom and WhatsApp groups for connection, and in that time I came across Jim once more, now presenting Humanity Rising, which for me became a lifesaver of information and solutions to the dreadful mess the world was in throughout the lockdown period. On Humanity Rising, I suddenly had daily access to thought leaders from all around the world who gave me hope that there were indeed projects and new kinds of thinking happening amongst the chaos, which had the answers to how we could create a future based on humanitarian values and imaginative circular systems that were very much alongside my own thinking for the future I would wish for my grandchildren, and as Jim has already said, the 7 generations to come. Those groundbreaking daily sessions of Humanity Rising, which have featured many of the world's top visionary leaders, are now progressing to the next stage, which is, of course, what we're sharing with you today, and which I've been involved with for almost the last year, giving my time to something I believe in so passionately. I believe it's crucial in today's world. With technology continuing to develop, we now have the means to create our own media, a broadcasting network for all generations that's interactive, solutions-based, and inclusive. I believe that Humanity Rising Network is exactly what is needed now. A trustworthy broadcast vehicle that turns passive viewers into proactive global citizens, a community that together can create local and global change by informing and educating each other on new and ancient ways of living and working that makes us independent from the old, worn out and corrupt systems of today, and brings us to a new global commons where we have the choice to co-create a better, loving world for all sentient beings on our beautiful planet. It is in time to engage both on and off screen into projects and initiatives that are based on the truth and come together in collaboration with partners all over the world to share information and ideas. I believe that the world desperately needs this new form of media right now, and Humanity Rising Network will take the lead. I believe in this project so absolutely and completely, and I'm so pleased to be part of it. Thank you very much. Back to you, George and Tom.
Thank you, Lynne. Janice, would you like to join us and share some of your thoughts?
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a very exciting journey to work with you incredibly talented people a little on my background, which started my early years with helping that my last name is Hall, and as a hallway connects rooms. I connect people and ideas and have been doing it since I marched on Fifth Avenue for the very first Earth Day and realized that we needed to build a movement. And after that, I was very deeply involved in the formation of the natural products industry, from a mom and pop and hippie industry into a global multi-billion-dollar industry on the ground floor. But I realized that we needed to turn it from food into a lifestyle and into a movement. So my background really has been about cross-pollinating movements and bringing together and building pathways between silos. And I've been tracking the demographics and psychographics of these movements and their tipping points is to create social change. And I can tell you for sure that humanity is rising. I can tell you that there's enough of us right now for a tipping point for a healthy, socially just, environmentally safe, peaceful, and evolutionary coherent world. It's just that we don't know each other. And our demographic is out there. It's multidimensional demographic with a thirst for knowledge and global solutions. It's been emerging for decades since the very first targeting these aware movements with the cultural creatives, the lifestyles of health and sustainability decade, and several decades. And the emergence of this demographic is, I see humanity rising as a noun. It's not just the name of the network, but it's also, it depicts it depicts the qualities of what's happening in the world right now. Humanity is rising, and humanity rising is a demographic group. And we need to cross-pollinate that group. And I think that this network is a great opportunity. We'll have channels and networks for each category that is on the frontiers of social change. However, the importance is, as I think Tom addressed with the Sustainable Development Goals, they're all great and virtuous aspirations. However, they're often silos. And unless we break open the doors of those silos and allow the cross-pollination, we won't find the solutions, because often it is in the black holes between those silos where the solutions lie, where the weaving of these topics. You cannot solve the climate crisis without solving the food crisis, without solving the health crisis, without solving the disaster crisis and the poverty crisis. They're all incredibly interrelated. And the vision of Humanity Rising provides a pathway for us to interweave these silos so that between us all, we can work together for this social change. So it means this level of collaboration. We all have to look at the stakes that we have put in the ground for our organization or our vision, and maybe step back a little on our ownership of that and recognize what other organizations we can work with, rather than having the ownership of our vision, but to, again, open those silos doors and work with organizations of like mind. And with that, I will simply end, and I will turn it back to you, Jim or George.
Thank you, Janice. Heidi, please join us, and welcome.
So my name is Heidi Sparks-Gruber, and for the last 4 decades, I've been working with people, organizations, and communities to bring about the worlds we want to see. Navigating the journey from aspiration to real change has been central to my practice. What is it that makes that happen? Just not inspiring ideas, but actually seeing change on the ground. And looking at the remarkable wealth of knowledge, expertise, and material that Jim and his team have brought together and coalesced in Humanity Rising, we've been considering what Humanity Rising 2.0 might look like if its full potential of this media that Lynne was talking about, if that kind of network existed. And what would it look like to catalyze all of this generosity and wisdom into connection and possibilities beyond our imagination across time and space? And in a sense, to midwife the paradigm shift that Tom mentioned earlier, that is so urgently needed now. We just don't have time. We need to get on with it. So recently I was on a global Zoom call, one of an ongoing series that I've been part of, in which change activists were sharing their work. And it turned from a presentation into a kind of spontaneous peer assist. And a conversation emerged between a remote community in Colombia called Sole, self-organized learning environments, and a community of activists dedicated to ending gender-based violence in the Val in South Africa. We had two teams that were on there talking about their own projects, and suddenly the conversation erupted or blossomed actually into questions that were deeply coherent across those communities. And as it continued, the conversation clearly transformed the thinking and the doing in both communities and in the rest of us who were on the call. We were so fortunate, and it had taken 2 years to get here. So what can this new Humanity Rising network do for us that cannot be done by ourselves? There are so many sincere activists, so many thousands of flowers of blooming across the planet. And as Janice says, much of that is sequestered or kept into small spots. So we have them blooming, but there's no aggregated momentum that comes from them. And so what can we do? What can the new Humanity Rising do for us that we cannot by ourselves do, person to person, community to community, and on the ground? It's really important that we begin to discover what that is and to actually build it into what we have. What can we make visible, connect, inspire, accelerate, and amplify what is already happening? There's so much happening. And how to design and evolve the channels of access so that application is just in time, fit for purpose for each and all of us. So we're turning that programming question inside out. What would it take to have this new media network serve the often invisible global network of current change, agency, and initiative to become a global self-organizing resource for each other, offering opportunities for access and impact that have not existed up till now? George said at the beginning of this call that we are looking to all of you. And indeed we are, because we have that question. We don't know the answer. It's in all of us. And what we need to do is hear more and more and actually learn our way into having a network that works that way. And we're really excited to be joining you for that journey. George or Tom? Yeah.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Janice, Lynn, Tom, George, for that splendid collage of a Humanity Rising network. I want to now bring in two other people that have been seminal to the development of Humanity Rising and will be part of our evolution into the network. And I want to bring in someone who you haven't seen for some time, Sabina von Gafka. Those of you who were there at the beginning will remember that Sabina came in right at the origin moment in May of 2020 and offered to help me co-moderate. And at that time, I was drowning in 7-day-a-week programming and looking for all the help I could get. And here shows up Sabina. So she is now recently reconnected and joined our team. So Sabina, I want to just thank you for everything you did to help launch Humanity Rising and invite you to say a few words about your vision for Humanity Rising Network.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you to all of you who were in this amazing advisory board. I mean, you've shared so many insights on the leverage and the progression and sort of the transformation that we can also make with Humanity Rising, and now elevating that into Humanity Rising Network. And happy equinox to all of our viewers as well. So as Jim mentioned, I came on board Humanity Rising actually through an impact hub in Sweden that I've been working and done some social impact work and creating narrative around that. And they said, there's this new platform, or there's this new broadcast, let's say, that is happening, and I think you should really check it out. So I reached out to Jim, mainly because I was so thirsting myself for educational, inspirational, but also impact creating content, really shedding light on people, individuals, leaders around the world who actually, have solutions or possibilities, and shedding light on what we can do. Not only, today the news is maybe more shedding light on everything that is destructive and, keeping us in a space of fear, where I felt we really need to change the narrative so we can come from a point of view of solutions and really understand that together we can make a difference. But we need, I think it was Janice who mentioned, we need to go from silos to a unified platform and ecosystem. So I was on board with co-hosting with Jim and really also obtaining so much knowledge and understanding. There's so much knowledge, experience, and change makers out there that, we nearly have an obligation to bring them all together. And that's when already then I mentioned to Jim, we really need to shed light on this. We need to have, more light coming to Humanity Rising. And one thing I really want to applaud is the fact how Humanity Rising has so organically grown into what it has grown during these 3 years. It's amazing that a platform that hasn't really been, let's say, out that much in the media has attracted all the amazing empowered individuals that it has. And that shows that the energies and frequencies around Humanity Rising, and that it really is by the people, for the people, is one of those energetics that also draws people to it. So I'm amazed, happy, and also thrilled to be on the journey to help facilitate Humanity Rising becoming a network, because I really do believe that syndicating and aggregating content that can really be a catalyst or transformational is key. Everything is usually broadcast in a funnel. What we can do is leverage it by bringing in other people and their content, in addition to what Humanity Rising also will provide. And my background is, I would say, threefold. I'm a communications catalyst, so I travel around the world as a moderator, speaker, interviewing also as a TV host people around the world. And I'm also an entrepreneur and also a Web3 entrepreneur. So I'm also stepping into sort of our next financial system, as in Web3, blockchain, and so forth. So I hope to be able to contribute and also create a lot of content and share my expertise to Humanity Rising Network going forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Sabina. I so look forward to rejoining forces with you and really diving into Web3 and all blockchain and all the things that are now possible with technology. And it's worth just noting that, when Lynne and Tom Rautenberg and others back in the 1990s were envisioning this, there was a gap between what one could imagine and the technological capacity to deliver it. And I think what's really exciting about our world right now is that technology has essentially caught up with the human imagination. So what we can envision is possible, we can actually do. And that is such an important juncture. It's such a potentiated moment for humanity in so many ways. And it's in that spirit that I want to welcome my good friend, John Raymer. He also, like Sabina, showed up out of nowhere, delivered by the gods at the beginning of Humanity Rising, and said, I am the administrator for several hundred organizations and we all share our Facebook pages. And I'd never thought of that before. And he said, well, if we partnered, we could start broadcasting the Humanity Rising sessions that were at that time were just going out over the Ubiquity University Facebook page and in whoever would show up on the Zoom calls out much more broadly. So John Raymer, from the very beginning, has been a brother in arms, as they say, and really enthusiastically supporting everything that we're doing, along with other organizations like Unity Earth and the Compassion Games. And he's a networker par excellence. So John, I want to welcome you to join us and add your voice to this mission that we're now on to morph Humanity Rising into Humanity Rising Network. And thank you so much for everything you've done to take us out to the global community.
Well, I was doing that right here as I sat here. I'm in Hawaii, okay? It's the middle of the night here, but I could not be here. It's so urgent right now that there are trusted sources. Look what just has been revealed to us with Fox News. The money and profit motive is such an incredibly powerful force that everybody's wondering who can they trust right now. And I trust you, Jim. I trust you, George. I know where your hearts are. So literally, I'm sitting here making a wave. That's what Sign does, is we call them waves. So we take a live stream and we turn it into a wave by sharing it. Already we've got 17 shares, and I'm going to keep going. We'll get up to 75, maybe 80 shares. That's what we can do together. The limits of the possible have been radically changed in our lifetime. It was Fernand Braudel who said that all development is driven by changes in the limits of the possible in the structures of everyday life. So we're paddling and publishing together in our magic canoe. And I'm so grateful to you, Jim, for your leadership and for there being such a trusted source like this. When the topics of our time, we need to know who can we count on. And the technological innovations that we're living through are just unbelievable. This ChatGPT thing is just causing everyone to rethink, wait a minute here. What's the role for human beings in this world? And how do we work together in unprecedented unified action? So I'm grateful for the chance to serve. Summer and I are here. We're going to be headed to LA for the LA Convergence that's coming up. Then we're going out to Death Valley for the Passover Seder with my daughter in the wilderness, Torah in the wilderness, they call it. I mean, these are really unprecedented days, and I'm grateful for the chance to serve. Thank you for the good work that's going on here. And thanks everybody for leaning into it and figuring out how we can do this together in really new and creative ways. I'll keep
Thank you
making
so
moves.
much, John.
Yeah.
I love it. Torah in the wilderness. That's the world we live in right now. Beautiful, beautiful thought. Before we continue with our program, everyone, I just want to pause and note and thank very, very deeply the Humanity Rising and Ubiquity staff. As George said, when we started, we had no idea what we were doing. We just felt compelled to offer free space for people in the depths of the pandemic. And it burgeoned in ways that have been extraordinary, and it really taxed our team to keep up as they've done with a diligence and a harmony and passion that has been an astonishing experience for me personally. So I just want to name a few people who have been on this journey, and I want to start with Rick Buckley. As many of you know, he succumbed to a stroke as he was preparing actually for a Humanity Rising session last April. And it was Rick who, from the very beginning, said, this is really important and I'm totally in. And he worked tirelessly 7 days a week until he was very unfortunately felled by a stroke from which he's recovering. So I just want to thank Rick Buckley for everything that he did. I want to thank Matt Robertson. He was another one who was there day in and day out as the one who was organizing all the speakers with me and interfacing, and it's like herding cats And so there's a lot of follow-up and all the stuff that all of you know has to happen to bring together a program like this one. There's a lot of preparation, a lot of toing and froing. And then Georg Balk, Georg, who took over from Rick, but was also working with Rick to ensure that technology worked as best we could. You know, as we say, Zoom happens. And there's been a lot of glitches with Zoom, as it itself has burgeoned over the last several years in the process of the pandemic and so forth. But Georg Balk has been an unbelievably competent, professional, technical administrator for everything that we do. So Georg, I just want to thank you. I also want to thank Katie Amrin, who is serving as our Director of Operations for Ubiquity University and really just coordinates everything that needs to happen for Humanity Rising. I want to thank Katie Malachuk, our graphic designer, you know, the art cards that go up every day, the web page that we developed for Humanity Rising, all had her brilliant spirit depicting everything we were seeking to express for our aspiration for this endeavor. So there's many people. Peter Mary, who's our managing director and chief innovation officer at Ubiquity. He was the one who actually thought of the name. I was so busy putting it together, never even occurred to me that we needed a name. And it was Peter Mary who called one day and said, Humanity Rising. That's what this is going to be about. It's going to be about Humanity Rising. And I said, yes. And so off we went. And our board, of course, Lindley Edwards and Jim Hickman, the list is endless. I'll stop there. But I just want to express very deeply the ceaseless work that a very committed team have been offering, just because it matters so much that humanity is enabled to rise with honest content, with a motivation to be an active player in the world at this moment, when every choice we make matters in a determination of human destiny. So whether you are just a viewer and anonymous, or whether you're someone who appears on our show, all of us are making a difference as we bring Humanity Rising to the next stage. And so what we want to turn to now is a presentation of our deck, our PowerPoint. Our landing page is also up that we can show everybody, and we'll put the links in the chat. But we were going to do this in two stages. Number one, I'd like Janice and Lynne to join again, because it was Janice and Lynne who really took what George and Tom and I had tried to written up as prose and turned it into poetry, and turned it into a brand and an exciting palette of colors and a feeling tone that only Janice and Lynne and Katie Malachuk working together could do. So we thought we would have them speak a little bit about the ethos of Humanity Rising, and then George and Tom will take it from there and run through some of the aspects of the deck and the landing page, and then we'll have a final gathering of thoughts and impressions, and that will be our program for today. But Janice, Lynne, Katie, thank you so much for bringing our brand and ethos into such beautiful relief.
I think Janice and I felt we were bringing the kind of the feminine energy in into what you guys have done brilliantly, but was kind of fairly linear, and we felt it needed to come alive and be exciting. And I have to say, Janice did an enormous amount of the detail work on it. When she was worrying about whether there should be period points or uppercase or lowercase, at that point, I would say over to you. But I think, you know, as a team and with Katie, as you say, it's turned into something, it's brought it alive. And that's what we wanted to do, was to show, and you'll all be seeing it in a minute, what we were talking about, how this could look, what we were saying. So Janice, what about you? What's your thoughts on?
Well, you know, Jim, George, and Tom did the original heavy lifting in terms of putting the concept on paper. And again, we did try to put poetry to what they were trying to do and create image, because what's so important about media, it's not just the words, it's the feeling, it is the understanding, because many people learn just by a visual. So we wanted images that connected to the heart, that gave the vision that for a future we could all step into. And crafting the words was really important to me, because I'm a wordsmith and I know that words matter. And I think that we're still using last century's words. And I've been saying since 2000 that we need a new lexicon for the new millennium. And we're almost a quarter of the way through. And so it was really wonderful to work with Katie, because she's so much younger, and we need to bring the youth into this, because we are doing it for them. I'm doing it for them. I know all of you are. I have no children. I want to be a good ancestor. And so it was really refreshing and deeply provocative for me to work with Katie to get her understanding of what would bring youth to the picture as well. And I wanted to see it multidimensional. And I collect Fibonacci spirals. My phone, my computer, everything has a different version. And so I was explaining that I wanted movement and that I could see this as an evolutionary spiral. And years ago, I worked for Lady Bird Johnson. I worked for News Talk Radio. I was a CBS affiliate. And then I worked with Sue Ann Taylor, who built Zeal TV, which was one of the very first broadcast online networks. We did Holistic News Network, Choosing Green, and we were the pool feed for the Clinton Global Initiative, right between Fox, CNN, and MSNBC. So I was really looking at the news from what I watched on the dais and then what showed up on TV. And I do want to say that everybody would be excited for CBS or NBC to be there. But at the end of the day, they gave maybe 30 seconds to it, but it was the independent networks like ours and like many that Humanity Rising is turning into that brought the full story to people. And I somehow wanted to do that, and I wanted to see it become multidimensional. So that is, I was trying to bring a feeling, and y'all watching this can see if we did it, but we did it as a team. You know, we may have launched the new imaging, and we had lots of discussion on brand ethos and, you know, what the person at the end of the line is going to feel, how we can inspire you to look today, not just watch. And you'll see at the very end what we mean. So
Can I just add that, as always, it's going to be a work in progress. So,
yes.
you know, you'll see it change, you'll see it grow, you'll see lots of new ideas come in, and we hope those ideas will come from all of you, because that's, as we've said earlier, is really an integration of, for the people, by the people. We all have ownership of this, and we want to work together. And as Janice absolutely rightly says, bringing in the youth, bringing in all ages, all backgrounds, so that we can create something that is so unique. And it already is there. I know it's already there. In my heart, we talked about being a heart project. I know this heart project is here. I can see it, I can feel it, and we're going forward. And we want everybody on this call, and everybody that they know, and everybody, the people that they know, come with us and create this big community of heart.
So thank you, Lynne, Janice, and everyone on the call so far. And Tom, can you kindly share your screen so we can go through the deck? So we have covered a lot of this ground, so we're not going to inundate you with too much more information. But in short, a new model in global communications and more is what we're all about. And as Janice mentioned, this spiral of collaborative broadcast and content learning and regenerative information, that's really the breakthrough that we're talking about, both on the local and the global level. In terms of what if, think about Bucky Fuller's comment, think about the possibility of really being architects of the future. Think about bringing together this incredible collection of luminaries and experts and authors and thought leaders and candidates and all the rest to really help us create a blueprint that will make the future possible in a whole new way. And dialogue is a key. Unlike most channels, we actually bring individuals together to conduct inquiries about possibilities and opportunities and truth. We cover, the code red challenge, systemic issues of our time, moving beyond analysis to content-based news. We're really dedicated to creating a whole new form of audience interactivity and adding experiential education with competency-based skills and possibilities for people all over the world, so that we end up with truly inspired, proactive, discerning, informed citizens committed to making a difference. That's what the global commons can be. Our audience is global. We looked at who are the people that make a difference in our time? Who are the people that don't have to be convinced but are already on board? And amongst those people are a whole set of people around the world, different ages, genders, races, belief systems, and whatnot. And all of them in their hearts are committed to making a difference in this time because they know how essential that difference is. So we looked at the audience, next slide, please. We looked at the audience from a variety of standpoints. In the 1980s, Paul Ray and Sherry Anderson articulated the cultural creatives. And today, that cultural creative audience has grown to hundreds of millions of people around the world. And there are other segments, traditionalists, modernists, that all combine to make this category of people who are interested in creating a world that is impassioned, that is sane, that is regenerative, that is full of positive solutions and opportunities, and in which they want to play a part. Their voices important, their voices heard and integrated, and most important, their voices being the people on the ground that actually implement this multi-phase process that brings content and news, brings education, and brings activation together. Because frankly, what has caused so many previous experiments to fail is that those three elements have not been integrated. Information alone doesn't do the trick. No matter how good it is, no matter how inspiring it is, it needs people learning new skills, and then it needs people rolling up their sleeves and saying, we're going to go forward and activate this. Next slide, please. This is just some of what Jim and the group have already talked about, 600 plus shows, 2,000 plus great, committed, activist speakers and whatnot, 350 collaborating organizations and audiences that have ranged from 10,000 to 4 million. Ubiquity at the heart of it all, the vision that Jim and the Ubiquity team had 16 years ago is finally coming home to roost in a whole different way with a global audience committed to learning. As Ubiquity says, we go deep to go far. Presenters incredible across the board. There's no hesitation, no doubt about their quality. You see some of the names listed on the side. Incidentally, this deck is going to be available on the landing page so you can download. Wonderful hearts and minds, courageous, impactful, talking about a variety of topics that cover the board. And that's our commitment as a network. We are going to cover the critical topics of our time in new ways, content curated with people who are in life tested experiences and who can make a difference. Not just talking heads, but hearts and minds that are committed to the well-being of the planet.
Yeah, thank you, George. So as we've been sharing with you during the course of this broadcast today, it's about moving people from providing them with information to deepening their understanding so that we see behavior change and ultimately the norm change. The world needs a norm change. And so we have been providing the solution-based content over the last 600 plus programs, and also creating the context for that content that's been broadcast. So, you know, some of the programming where we've tried to help people understand, how did we get to where we are? And most importantly, how do we move forward and get to where we need to be? And so it's been through, as George said, this a dialogue process, inquiry and dialogue, to help people really understand and appreciate what's going on, which is fundamentally different from what they've been seeing from any other mainstream media source, and oftentimes even in education, the education environment, so that we can shift the prevailing attitudes, which have to be shifted. It's essential if the human species is going to continue to survive, let alone thrive. And then motivating personal transformation so that we can see the systemic transformation that needs to take place. And so the equation really is moving people along the learning curve in their journey from learning about something new that they were unaware of to actually being out on the streets, as Heidi was talking about, creating a ground game, creating communities of network, as Janice referenced, so that we move from broadcast to action, and action in a way that is informed, that's well organized, and does make the differences in the world that are so desperately needed. And we're all doing this through what hopefully people have experienced in the 600 plus broadcasts. It's all value based. So we've got a commitment to dialogue and mutual understanding. We have a focus on health and fitness and well-being. We've demonstrated time and time again our commitment to environmental regeneration. We have demonstrated and supported and want to continue to support advances in social equity, activism, and justice, presenting non-ideological based solutions and news, and prioritizing global awareness and planetary consciousness to help elevate humanity from, as I referenced earlier, our adolescent stage to our adult stage. And so these values are at the core of what Humanity Rising has been and what Humanity Rising Network will be. And all of this, as Jim and John Raymer were talking about, is happening at a time that we're seeing an incredible, radical evolution in global broadcasting, from what was traditional terrestrial-based broadcasting to cable television, to the cord cutting that's been happening, and the ability to take advantage of some of those technological advances, whether it's video on demand or over-the-top networks, OTTs, the fast networks that are emerging. So we're in a position where we can take advantage of this technological revolution and get information out in the world, whether it's mobile devices or TVs, smart TVs, et cetera, where people can access the information in a way they've never been able to before.
So we're talking initially about a variety of phases, and just to accent what Tom just said. We're not going to be content. We can't afford to be content to rely on one platform, one airing system, one distribution network. We need to reach as many people as quickly as possible. So that's why we're exploring all of those platforms simultaneously. So a variety of phases that move from one channel, one program a day, to 4 channels, including live chat, including all kinds of new interactivity. We're going to have a new weekend format, films and documentaries and concerts and short features and interviews and all kind of conferences, all kinds of things that allow audiences that may not yet know the content or be engaged in the weekly programs to come in and add more vitality and reach. Eventually, we'll go to 6 channels that will give us 12 hours a day of content, and then eventually organically driven by audience interest, driven by support from our viewers, from other revenue sources, will expand to a 24/7 live screen network. The revenue model is underwriting in terms of the public broadcast model. No products sold, no pitches, no influence, just organizations committed to the greater good that want to support the content. There'll also be a membership aspect. There's an e-commerce aspect. We'll be providing education programs, and we'll be going out after grants from organizations that want to see exactly what we're doing, well-funded and thriving. So that's our hybrid revenue model. You see these familiar faces on the screen. Heidi isn't there, Sabina's not there, John's not there yet, but we're building this team. You don't see all of the great people that are behind these faces that Jim was kind enough to mention, but we are going to build a world-class team to accomplish a world-class objective. From the standpoint of those of you who are out there who are impact investors, who know them, who are interested in making this possible, you'll find out in a few seconds some of what we've done behind the scenes to build the financial foundation of all this. So if you're interested in being on the frontier of this transformative media, please come join us. Tom?
Yeah, and I'll spend a little bit of time talking about the financials, but certainly our intent isn't to get into a financial presentation today. What we know is that looking at the world, whether it's an Amazon or a Netflix or other streaming services, it's about a $60 billion market, and it's the equivalent of fast food. People may get some cravings that are met, but they're not nourished. And so it's a very crowded marketplace that we're entering into, but we're entering into it with a completely different philosophy, a different business model where we're not a Tucker Carlson, who's one of the most viewed personalities on TV, who is chasing the wrong metrics. How many viewers does he have? And how much advertising money can he bring in? And being willing to compromise truth and other principles. So our business model, our ethos, our values will allow us to enter into this very crowded marketplace with an incredibly different value proposition. And it's a growing market, but one where we know that there's a desperate need. We put together a financial series of projections. We have the ability to deliver a financially viable organization over the next 3 years, and we're excited to move that forward. And it's, as George was saying, it's based primarily on underwriters and membership. And when we say membership, and we've certainly seen it in the chat today, people keep referencing family, the HRN family. And this will work if we are able to engage a community of people not just to view HRN, but to engage in the content, to engage in the education, and to move it to action. So we've determined that we can grow from 9,000 members of the community, not subscribers like a Netflix or an Amazon, but 9,000 members of this community growing to 7.5 million over the next 6 years. So I'll just close by sharing, we really want people to not just watch. We're asking, we're inviting, we're pleading with you to join the HR revolution. And we're happy that you're with us today.
Thanks, Tom. We're going to invite Jim and Lynn and Heidi and everyone back in. We don't have a lot of time, but we have a little bit of time. So if there are things that Tom and I brushed over that you want to accent a little, please do. We'd love to have that. And then we're going to do a close. Anyone have any thoughts that we missed or that you think are important that we share with our audience?
Well, I just want to thank Tom and George for everything you did with the numbers, and Janice and Lynn and Katie Malachek. And I'd also like to invite in Stan Pokris and Shannon MacArthur to open up their videos as well, because Stan and Shannon have been just doing extraordinary work day by day to support the after chat. Stan has categorized and cataloged every single speaker and every single session and cross-referenced it so that we have literally an archive of everything involved in Humanity Rising since our very first day. So I just want to acknowledge Stan and Shannon for their extraordinary work in addition to the Ubiquity staff. It really takes a village to grow a child, and it takes a village to grow Humanity Rising into Humanity Rising a network. So I just want to acknowledge that as we continue the program.
Thank you so much, Jim. I'd just like to say how much this program has inspired me, and to acknowledge everyone. Each one of you out there makes this a possibility, and it is realized through the enjoyment that we share. What I want to point out is that the after chat, the getting together after Jim's program closes, it, from my perspective, is what changes it from the usual thing that we've all been used to. You know, you go to school and the teacher teaches you. The after chat is where we get together and change it into the medium of the future. This is where we get to talk to each other and ground the knowledge that we have just heard. And what does it mean to you? And to get to know the people who are also watching, the people in the chat. Thank you so much for engaging in this exercise of the future. And thank you, Jim, very much for bringing all of this to us.
Thank you, Shannon. Stan, do you want to make a quick comment?
I just want to say the reason that so much of this has continued is because you, Jim, have continued it. And day after day after day, and what I'm trying to do is to keep up with what you're doing so we can document it. I want to see what we have been experiencing here for the last 600 episodes continues to be known about, and probably better known 100 years from now than it is now. Because what we're doing here is historic. And the effort of bringing together all the speakers has not really begun yet. I believe that you, Jim, are the only person that has a complete list of all the email addresses for all the people who've appeared And we, as people who support this effort, need to be interacting with those speakers and making sure that they have an understanding of who else they ought to be talking to besides the all audience. Each speaker has an interest, and each of them should be, and probably isn't to some extent already, communicating with some of the other speakers. And I think it's a role that the chat people can play, the people I call the fans of Humanity Rising, can play to tighten up the relationships among the people who have been on the show. And it's those people who have been presenting us with their ideas, and we need to make sure that their ideas, where they're appropriate, can be connected to each other. So thank you for the opportunity to thank you for doing what you're doing, all of you. Every one of you has been committed to doing this, and it's just fabulous to be part of it. So thank you all.
Thank you, Stan. Janice.
I just wanted to say that maybe we could give some voice to the emerging advisors. Not only have we had stellar speakers who have been on Humanity Rising from the beginning, but you've met many of the team here, but we are developing, and there's an emerging group of advisors who in many cases are much smarter than us, that are very dedicated to the success of Humanity Rising, and we still haven't contacted everyone, but at this early stage of the game, we have some incredible luminaries. I know that Lynne Twist, and I know that we have Ken Wilbur and Jim Cummins and Margot King and Rob Steiner, and you might want to mention the names of some of the others that are emerging as advisors to keep us in check, keep our vision strong, to expand our vision, and to make this at some point more than just a talking heads show, something that is definitely even more interactive than not just because I don't want to diminish chat people, but chat people reimagined. So it's larger, wider, and broader, and more immersive and more activating. And so with that, I turn it back to you, Jim, to embellish on that.
Yes, we have a very distinguished group of advisors that are beginning to take shape. And Janice listed most of them. Kim Spencer is someone who's joined, who's one of the founders of Link TV, which was founded about 30 years ago. So he's been at it for years and years, and is extremely enthusiastic about Humanity Rising. A gentleman named Michael Olmstead, who's one of the most sophisticated technology producers anywhere in the world, linking broadcast with content. And he believes that Humanity Rising represents the next phase of what's possible. And I know, John, you've been thinking about all things technical as well, and would love to have your comment.
And I know Michael really well. Send him my love. It's good to hear his name in this mix. I just want to share, we put it out on 100 pages, just as an example of the trust that is in place and here to support our work. So like Stan was saying, grateful to you, Jim, for your leadership here. And I look forward to really, confronting what we've got in front of us here. These are unprecedented times. And the new source of information that we can rely on, and the connection that their relationships we can build, is a privilege and an honor to be in service of. So thanks again to all of you for what you're doing. We're in. The trust that's been placed with us is a privilege and a great opportunity to serve. So game on, here we go.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Janice.
I forgot people that and there may be more, but I wanted to acknowledge Nina Meyerhoff, who was one of the early on advisors, the winner, she's been awarded the Mother Teresa Award. She's the founder of Children of the Earth, global network of youth that she's put together. So she's a wonderful person to tap into. And of course, the One Humanity Institute with whom I work. And just recently, Chip Cummins, who is the president and founder of the American Renewable Energy Institute, who works with, investment, global leaders, presidents of different countries on the emerging climate change and shift over to renewables and a more environmentally just world. So I wanted to acknowledge both of them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It's a wonderful thing just to know in terms of this interface between technology and imagination that we're now live streaming over 100 different Facebook pages and YouTube channels and LinkedIn pages. That's an extraordinary thing that John Raymer, sitting in Hawaii, just for the click of his buttons, can take us live globally without doing anything extraordinary. So, I mean, John, it's a wonder what you have accomplished through the Sign Network, and the fact that we're able to partner in the way we are is really an example of the interface that is now possible as technology and imagination fuse
Jim, the
in
other
an
thing that's so
extraordinary way.
amazing is connecting each other, like Dr. Tamsin Woolley Barker, right? And that we've been able to share these relationships we have, this social capital with each other. And Tamsin, an evolutionary biologist, says to me that the situation we're in is caused by the patterns. And the patterns that we're in are caused by the relationships that we have and we don't have. By changing our relationships, we can change our patterns. That'll change the situation. And this is a good example, because when Facebook was emerging and all these different media channels emerging, they all think of themselves as independent silos. The idea that you'd let me be the admin on your Facebook page, that was a radical idea. It still is when we first say that that's what we're doing. But together, we're now realizing that we become a collective force. This is swarm creativity in action. This is something new. This comes out of nature, but it's not the way human beings have been with each other. We isolate, we're separate, we live in silos. I mean, let's just tell the truth. That's the way we operate, out of fear. It is love that's going to win in the end. And that's what's here. There's a lot of love for you guys and what Humanity Rising has been. I'm using guys in a gender specific and gender independent way. And that's what I'm betting on, that we are going to be able to change our patterns. And if we change our patterns, the situation will change. It won't unless we do that. And the only way to change those patterns is change the way we relate to each other. So it's such a joy to see Phil here. It's such a joy to see Tamsin, the people I've been able to introduce, all the people that you know, Janet. What does that really mean in the end, to know all these people? If it doesn't mean we're asking them to come together in some creative imagination, how do we use our creative imagination to transcend our creative imagination and really do something that makes the change that we need right now? This is a challenge to be creative, and I'm grateful for the chance to serve this way. These are the tales of synergy from the Magic Canoe. That's what I'm aiming for, and that's what I'm grateful for the chance.
You're amazing, John. Thank you so much.
We're doing it.
Sabina, Heidi, Lynn, I'd love to hear whatever comments you want to make about what's going on here. Sabina.
Well, I mean, everybody so eloquently, really expressed both the mission and the possibility of Humanity Rising Network. And, creating impact through storytelling is key, looking at the world that we're living in today, and really doing it collectively is a necessity. And I think this platform, I know this platform has all those possibilities, but it really also is this unification that all of us here know, and all of our amazing people in the chat and our audience. It's also about echoing out that in the world so that we also can, have a bigger impact at a larger scale. And to really make this happen, it requires, all us amazing individuals, but also maybe looking, going forward, because this, in the progression of this, just an appeal now, maybe looking at, could this also be a conduit and vehicle that can come to fruition through crowdfunding, so that we all really are part of creating this and investing into it. So that's something, I'm really looking forward to exploring and see how we can create not only the platform, but also actually create it together and contribute it to it together going forward. But it's amazing times. And Jim, I mean, kudos to you, because it truly is every single day you've been that conduit and really held the torch for this to go through all the storms, all the weathers, everything. And here we are today looking at making this into a larger, expansive, transformational platform that has every possibility to serve humanity, our planet, our species, and what we really thrive to do. So thank you. And thank you to all of you who are here. I'm really looking forward to this journey and to contributing to it.
Thank you, Sabinia. Thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to partnering up again. Heidi.
Yes, I just want to appreciate this moment and what a living demonstration it is of what Humanity Rising has always been intended to do. That as we participated and as we were audiences to programs that have been going on, that in some way each of us had this seed, dream, or imagination of taking it further. And I know that in some way we envisioned this moment even. And it just shows you just that it's what a fertile, vital platform it already is, and what we're imagining now, we'll be seeing soon. So I just wanted to acknowledge that miracle of this moment and of this possibility already. And I just want to thank you, Jim, and everybody on here. Can't wait to see what we cook up after this. I know we will be seeing it soon.
And really looking forward to working with you more closely, Heidi. You bring such a wealth of experience and wisdom to whatever you apply your intention on, and have you as part of this team is really gives us all great hope and ballast. So thank you. Thank you for everything. Lynne.
Yes, I know that we have to really raise a lot of funding to do this, and we will. And I'm actually also very passionate about the whole crowdfunding possibility. But I want to add something from one of the comments in the chat room that really touched my heart, from Raquel, who pointed out that as a pensioner with limited income, does this mean she doesn't have access anymore to Humanity Rising? And I think it's really, really important and essential that as we develop this further, yes, we need to raise funding. Yes, we want to have members. We want to do it in a way that is inclusive for everybody, but we don't stop serving the many people that perhaps can't afford to pay a regular contribution, but are very, very important to the whole of Humanity Rising and where we've got to this far. So I just wanted to bring that one in. And apart from that, I'm so with you guys. I'm just so proud of all the work that everybody's done, and so pleased to be here and so excited about what this future's going to bring in for all of us. And I think, the timing is absolutely right. If we don't do it, who else is going to do it? If not now, when? And I'm also aware that this screen of ours is very white, middle-aged, middle class, I have to say. And that is also something that we are very aware of and want to bring in all ages, all colors, all nationalities, all backgrounds, so that this truly becomes an inclusive platform for the world. So that's really important as well, I think, to say.
That's so important, Lynne. Thank you for bringing that in. We know we have a long way to go, everyone. And we've taken the steps organically and incrementally that were available to us. But Lynne is absolutely right. For Humanity Rising to lift the world, it's got to look like the world. It's got to include the world. And so we're very aware of that. So thank you for bringing that in. As we draw this to a close, Tom, why don't you say whatever you would like to offer in, and then George, why don't you close us out?
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone. It's terrific. I so appreciate the perspectives that each of you have brought, and the acknowledgement of the perspectives that are not with us today, but have been on many of the panels and in the work to be done. One of the things that comes to mind for me is to know is not enough. And what heartens me about what we're taking on is the action piece and the deepening of understanding, the deepening of connection, the deepening of community. And so while the focus over the last couple of years has been on helping people learn more, that's not enough. And the elegance of this model is to really help bring the needed changes to the world. So thanks for being with us today, each of you on the screen, all of you in the panel, and all of you who are watching at a future date.
Thank you so much, Tom. I just want to thank Tom, everyone, just personally, for the extraordinary quality of the programming that Tom has brought to Humanity Rising. I mean, Tom, you've done an amazing, you've covered democracy, you've covered nonviolence, you've covered technology, you've covered endangered species. You have a Renaissance mind, and it's always first class. It's always world class. So Tom Eddington, thank you. I really appreciate working with you on this endeavor. You bring the kind of esprit de corps and quality that helps us set a mark and a benchmark of excellence. And I would say that about all of you. And that's one reason why I'm so excited about what we're doing here, that everyone is bringing excellence and deep commitment to this enterprise. And as Lynne said a moment ago, it's an idea whose time has come. And I think that's why it's becoming such an attractor. And in that spirit, I just want to acknowledge George, who catalyzed the vision for all of this. So George, give us a final word.
Thanks, Jim. I want to echo everything that everyone has said. John, I have to say it's wonderful. In this broadcast alone, you have gone from darkness to light. Thanks for getting up in the middle of the night to do all this. So there are just a few things I want to say, and I want to address them to all of you who are listening. Everything that has been said on this broadcast is true. I also want you to know that your voices, your participation, your engagement, your support are essential to taking this from the stage that it's at to that dream that we've talked about and that vision we all want to see accomplished. We have a new landing page up. The URL will be in the chat. Go to it. Sign up for the continuing newsletter and information flow. There's a chance for you to donate. There's a chance for you to volunteer. Jim said it takes a village. I say it takes a nation and a globe. That we're not going to get this done with just the faces on the screen or even just the 2,000 wonderful, remarkable people that have been in the programs or all of the people behind the scenes. It requires you. Peter Drucker said, if you want to know the future, invent it. And that's one of our possibilities right now. We can invent the future that we want, but we all have a voice. We all have heart, imagination, intuition, insight, talent, and efforts that taken together can make this new network not just a reality, but a tool, an important platform for the future. So please come join us. If you're new to it, roll up your sleeves and get ready for a real ride. If you've been here, keep celebrating, keep contributing, keep staying involved in all of that. And that's our request to you. It's from our hearts to yours. John said it. So many people have said. Rumi said that if let your love be what you do, and that's what we all have to contribute. It's what this world is in so much need of what we together can bring. And we just have to have the perseverance, the courage and the will to make that happen. So in closing, we're just going to go out with a very short compilation of just a few programs. Only take 3 or 4 minutes, whatever, but it's our way of saying goodbye and thank you. So, Georg.
Give nature half a chance and she'll rebound with exponential bounty. And that's what we're finding on land and in the sea, whether it's a matter of repairing our soils and getting back to healthy soil microbial communities, or the road less traveled, and that is in the sea, regenerating our kelp forests from Vancouver to the tip of Tasmania, and from the Indo-Pacific all the way to the Mediterranean. So we see this is a chance to really heal the damage that's been inflicted in the past centuries and get us back to a healthy climate. So that's what we're hoping to do with marine permaculture.
One of the things that we're doing now is learning how to create healing and harmony between humans and the rest of their environments at the scale of entire landscapes, at the scale of watersheds, coastal estuaries, mountain ranges, the Great Plains, places where we can create regional economies that are integrated with local culture and local ecology.
Apologies are a profoundly sacred, deep,
narrator dialogue.
complex
Now.
act. You know, we teach children how to pray, we teach children how to meditate, but we don't teach children how to apologize. We don't, and we're human beings. We're flawed. We're deeply flawed. We're in an evolutionary process to become more whole and more centered and more loving. But apology is the thing we've been given to keep on going through that process, and we don't know how to do it. And so we're blocked. There's just karmic, I would just call it karmic toxicity, karmic residue, you know, toxic nostalgia that's just floating around the universe. It's like tar. It's you can feel it. You can walk into rooms and you can feel the energy of it. And apology actually breaks it up.
It's very exciting for me to realize we are on the dawn of a new science of humanity within its own nature and nature within humanity. And as we allow those two to overlap again and we start to understand science, and we're teaching children in 20 years about the interrelated and completely interdependent biology of their soil and their food and their own future, what a different world we'll live in. Those children will build houses that are not separated from nature. They will build communities that are not sterile of nature. They will build hospitals that are not sterile of nature. They will build prisons that are not sterile of nature. They will realize that if we are going to have a healthy human society, we are going to have to mimic and engage the biodiversity and beauty of the nature we were born within. And for this, I have great hope that the children that are being born now will survive long enough in their short lives that they are predicted to have to change everything.
Well, thank you, Jim, and thank the platform of Humanity Rising for providing an opportunity to do some sharing and some talking and some conversations, so that we can try to see if we can move to another level of consciousness. We framed our conversations around shedding the shackles of systemic racism, which is kind of the remnants that exist from colonized minds.
So this is a really urgent situation. And what we have done is, and we're science driven, science led, what we have done is looked at both what is happening with emission reductions and decarbonization in relationship to the loss of the sea ice, because what's happening is this is the epicenter really of climate change. Everything that everyone is doing in other regions of the world are absolutely necessary, but the magnification of global impacts, if we're complicit in letting the ice go, is catastrophic. Already the heat dome that literally boiled the tidal zone along the Pacific Northwest is related to sea ice loss, fires, more severe droughts and floods. The jet stream is wobbly, and ocean currents have changed, and they are all linked scientifically now to the loss of Arctic sea ice.
I was asked recently at a Juneteenth celebration this past weekend, what's the biggest difference with your campaign? Why should we vote for you? And I said, I'm prepared to lose my job over doing what's right. That's the biggest difference. You know, if you have people who just only care about power, they're going to rationalize bad behaviors. If you care about people who care about, if you vote in people who care about principle over power, and who are willing to strike out and do what Bobby Kennedy said, unleash these ripples of hope, even when it's politically inconvenient, that is a movement whose time has come, and that's the biggest difference with our campaign.
Thank you, everyone. Marvelous session. Beautiful equinox. Humanity is rising. Feel the surging momentum of the light. Bye for now. See you tomorrow.
Bye all.